Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and yesterday I was actually on Instagram and I read this quote and it basically said, hey, you know what? Social media has 24-year-olds thinking that basically if they're not married and have a house, basically they're failing in life. However, it's pretty true because at some point I want a house so bad because I saw everyone else out there actually buying houses. However, it's not always the best time to go ahead and buy a house. Now, how do you know this? Well, in this video, I'm going to break it down. And not just from my experience, but also, for example, from 3 people that I admire a lot and respect a ton. And those people are basically Charlie Munger. And he says all the time, hey, Charlie Munger is, by the way, Warren Buffett's right-handed man. And he says basically, you buy a house when you need one. And then you also have, for example, the guy that a lot of people know, but people actually don't like that much, actually Dave Ramsey, right? And the advice is always, well, you buy a house when it makes sense financially, when you have a foundation, you don't got any debt and stuff like that. And then lastly, you have Ramsey right here, right? Ramsey, and he says always, well, you always want to run all the numbers and run a rent versus buy calculator. That we know exactly if renting is better than buying. And by the way, sometimes renting is going to be better than buying. And in this video, I'm going to run that formula also so you actually understand it. Now, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day. So make sure to also subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, and on top of that, also destroy the like button. Now, the very first thing, guys, is Charlie Munger's advice, right? And the whole thing is you buy a house when you need one, when you're actually ready to actually buy a house. And by the way, you know, right now people think, hey, Tommy, right now I need a house. But in reality, that's artificial demand. Why? Because as you guys know, the Fed flooded the entire market with a lot of money. Now, interest rates are very low, and everyone says, for example, hey, right now I gotta buy a house because basically the rates are so low. And in reality, the Fed is getting the exact same effect that they actually wanted, which is basically you going out there and buying a house because basically the rates are so low. But the way I see it is basically, hey, are you buying a house because you're ready? You actually need one, or just because they said, hey, the rates are low and they might not be that low forever. It sounds like when someone's like, you know, like Black Friday or like Cyber Monday, like, hey, I gotta buy it right now because if I don't, I'm never gonna get this flat screen TV for a discount like this ever again. But next year, there's another discount, okay? So the whole point is this, okay? When you're going to buy a house, you want to write down all the reasons to why you actually want this house, right? Make a list of all the pros and also all the cons and find out exactly, do I want a house because basically I need one and I want one and it makes sense? Or do I want a house because basically all the other factors like, oh, I get a loan, very low payment every single month, 30-year mortgage. Oh my gosh, the rates are so low. On top of that, I can get an FHA loan, 3.5% down. Oh my gosh, right now is a perfect opportunity. But in reality, this is not gonna change for a while. So just make sure when you go out there and buy a home, it's because you actually want one, not because of everything else actually going on in the economy. And by the way, from my perspective, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and buy a house when I need one. When is that? Usually when I'm getting ready to actually start a family. For now, most of my money is being invested. But when I buy a house, I'm gonna be like, hey, we're ready to actually start a family. I'm getting married very soon. And when we say, hey, 3 to 4 years, we're gonna go ahead and start a family. Well, I actually wanna own a home then, and I buy a home then. When it actually makes sense, when I actually need one, not because, hey, the rates are crazy. Oh my gosh, get a house right now. And by the way, there's a game being played right now. Rates are low, creating artificial demand, which means basically people are offering beyond the asking price, beyond the appraisal price. And you might say, hey, Tommy, I don't care. I want it right now. But in reality, after 1 year of being in that house, you might say, hey, I've been paying this mortgage for this house. And in reality, it's not even worth that much. And by the end of the day, guys, a house is just a house. It's just a tool. You live there, great, but it's just gonna be like your first house. And usually you're gonna buy another house later on when you wanna like basically grow your family and so on. So take it into account like a business decision. Don't just say, hey, I need this house. No, that's just artificial demand playing games on you. And in 15 to 30 years you stay there, you're not gonna be happy paying much more than this house is actually worth. And when you sell it, you're not actually gonna make a big profit because in reality, you overpaid for this home. Not what you actually want. But however though, if you are selling a home right now is the best time because basically people that don't know what I'm telling you are paying a ton more money than the house is actually worth, which means more money in your pocket. So keep that in mind. But from buying perspective, be patient, buy when you're ready, and make sure you're not buying because basically everyone else is buying and because the Fed rates and everything else is actually going on, okay? Now, the second advice, guys, is basically Dave Ramsey here, right? And the whole idea is, well, Dave says, buy a house, right, when you're ready, but also when you're financially stable enough to actually go ahead and buy a house. Not just because basically, oh my gosh, the market is red hot, go buy a house, okay? No, not like that, right? But how do you know when you're actually ready? And by the way, do I agree with everything he says? The answer is no. Do I agree with everything Charlie Munger says? The answer is no. But the answer is, as an investor, as a learner, right? You gotta take what works and leave behind what doesn't. That's the whole goal. So don't just judge people because, hey, it's Dave Ramsey, don't listen. No. The answer is this guy's been on the game for like 30 years. There's good information in what he says. Now, what does he mean by saying, hey, make sure you're ready? Well, it means usually 5 things. The first thing is basically make sure you're debt-free. Make sure you also have 3 to 6 months of emergencies. That way, when things go wrong, eventually you're good to go, you're secured. Make sure you also save for a 10 to 20% down payment for this home. 20% if you want to avoid mortgage insurance, but that's the whole idea there. Number 4, when you buy a house, follow his 25% rule, meaning the house cannot exceed 25% of your monthly income, right? The expenses and so on, right? That's the whole idea. That way, the house is not such a big burden. And if things go wrong, you can still go ahead and pay for that house no matter what. And also, buy the home on a 15-year mortgage. And last, number 5, make sure while you're actually buying this home, you bought it, you have it. Well, in reality, make sure at the same time you're actually investing and also trying to pay this home off as fast as possible. The goal is not to buy a home and finance forever. The goal is to buy a home, pay it off, and own it. That way, your expenses become very, very low. That is the overall goal. Now, here is my advice, guys. Here's my take on this. Do you agree with everything here? The answer is, some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. Now, the first thing is, Tommy, okay, do you agree with having debt-free? The answer is yes, I agree you should be debt-free before you actually go ahead and buy a home. Do you agree you should have an emergency account? The answer is yes, you should, 3 to 6 months. That way, when things go wrong, you're okay. On top of that, down payment. Is a 10 to 20% too much? Or should I just go ahead and get a 3.5 FHA loan? The answer is no. I also agree with that. I also recommend you should get a 20%, right? 20% down payment. That way you avoid the mortgage insurance. It's a lot better, guys. But it does take more time. And last thing, 15-year mortgage and also the 25% rule. Do I agree with that? The answer is no. I agree with the 15-year mortgage, but I don't agree with the 25% rule. I agree that basically you should have a mortgage that's no more than 33% of your monthly income. That way you have a lot of room. But in my equation, I account for, hey, the expenses are 33%. However, we have to include basically the mortgage, the taxes, insurance, also maintenance, and also potentially an HOA fee. So if all those things added up together are no more than 30% of your income, I'm fine with it. But also get it on a 15-year mortgage. Tommy, why? Because this way, guys, when you buy a house this way, it means the house is not going to be that expensive and you're going to be ready for anything that actually happens. You don't want to buy a house where it's half of your income. That's insane. Lastly, do I agree that basically you should be investing while you're actually paying for this house? The answer is yes. Compound interest. You don't want to miss out on it. And also, the last thing, guys, is basically, should you try to pay it off early, right? Because the interest is tax deductible. Oh my gosh, saving so much money. Again, yeah, I also agree with Dave on this one. The idea is, the goal is to own a home, not to buy and finance it. I'm not playing the game of trying to save money with the government and all that stuff, because in reality, they can change rules whenever they actually want. So the goal is, I want to buy this home for my security and my family's security. The most important thing, in my opinion. Now, overall, this means when you buy a house, make sure you have a foundation. You're debt-free, your emergency fund, that way you're good to go. Make sure you can actually afford it, okay? A house not that expensive, on top of have a good down payment, and then try to pay this house off as fast as possible. That's the overall idea that Dave Ramsey is talking about. However, lastly here, you also have Remy Senti. You know, sometimes the numbers are just not going to make sense. So basically I'm saying that buying a house is not always going to be the right thing depending on where you actually live. And that's why usually you want to use a rent versus buy calculator. That way you know for a fact, hey, is this the right decision to go ahead and buy this home right now? Now, I'll show you guys one-on-one right now exactly what it looks like and how to actually calculate this, okay? Because by the way, it's not common sense. No one knows this stuff, but now you will for sure, right? And the idea is that right here, guys, is an apartment I actually found on Zillow. And by the way, this apartment is obviously in Manhattan because a 2-bedroom and a 1-bath only in Manhattan can go for basically $875,000. So in this case, okay, would it be a good idea for me to actually go ahead and buy this home? And by the way, in the Bronx, you can find homes for like $500,000, $700,000. It's not cheap. Okay, the point is buying a home is not always going to be a good idea. Sometimes it's just going to be a big trap. Okay, 15 to 30 years with this massive $500,000 or $700,000 loan, it's insane. So here's what you want to do, guys. Okay, well, at least here with this apartment, I scroll all the way down and I found that basically, hey, they have an HOA fee. That's almost $1,000. So even once I'm done, well, I have taxes to worry about and also an HOA fee. Keep that in mind. And down here it tells me, hey, Tommy, here is the mortgage, okay? The mortgage is going to be $5,000 every single month, including, for example, also the HOA fee. That's how crazy this actually is. But if I wanted to do, for example, by the way, 20% of that is $175,000. That's a house in Florida, just a down payment. On top of that, on a 15-year mortgage, that would be somewhere around $6,000. That's how expensive this actually is. But let's just use convention here, okay? Let's say 30-year mortgage. And by the way, the rent in this area is around $2,750. So either rent for $2,750 or buy and pay $5,000, including, for example, the HOA fee. Well, I want to go on Google and I want to type in rent versus buy calculator and click enter. Boom. It takes me here. I want to click on the one that says smart assets. I love this one right here. And the idea is that this right here is going to show me all the math. Again, New York is where I'm going to be. Also, rent is going to be $2,750. The target home price is $875,000. On top of that, down payment is 20%. It's a lot. This is an insane amount of money, okay? On top of that, my annual income is $80K. The HOA fee is gonna be around $8,000. Now, what does this mean? On top of that, maintenance costs, taxes, all the stuff. What does this mean, guys? It means for a fact that basically renting will always be cheaper than buying this property. Why? Because basically, even after 30 years, I spent less money on rent than I would basically by buying this home. And by the way, there's also taking into account basically like the rent actually going up every single year also because you are in Manhattan. But overall, this is how crazy this actually is. The point is, it is not always going to be a good idea to actually buy a home. 15 years, I spent $500K renting, but I would have spent $800K on this home. This is how crazy this is. But let's say basically it was a $300,000 home. Well, obviously it's going to be a lot better. On top of that, let's say, hey, there's no HOA fee, so that's zero. Well, in reality, if we run these numbers, well, if you stay in this home for 2 years, well, in reality, buying is going to be cheaper than renting. It's pretty obvious, right? But the idea is you want to run the numbers before you say, hey, no, buying a house is the only way. Buying a house is the best thing. And that's why my job to learning is just to go out there and learn from the best, take what I like, what I don't like, things that work, things that don't work, and then form my own ideas. That's the overall goal here. But guys, overall, how do you know you're ready? When you're actually prepared financially, and when you actually need one, and also when you run all the numbers. Those are the 3 main things you want to worry about when it comes to buying a home. So for right now, me, TommyBryson, 24 years old, 2021, do I want to buy a house? The answer is no. Do I care the market is red hot? Oh my gosh, how many houses? The answer is no. I don't care. I don't think that in 3 to 4 years when I'm actually ready, there's not going to be any houses around, right? They're going to be here. It does not matter. But the key is you have to be patient and buy things when you're ready, especially when it's this expensive. A flat screen, all right, buy it right now if you want to, right? But when it comes to something this expensive, you want to make sure you're actually ready. But guys, overall, comment down below and let me know, what do you think? Are you ready to go ahead and buy a home? Do you have the down payment? Are you debt-free? Do you have an emergency fund? Does it make sense financially in your area? Comment down below, let me know. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. If you guys want to text me or talk to me one-on-one, join my Patreon, link down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And before I go, if you want to watch another video, here's that video right here, and click my face right here. See you guys tomorrow. And as always, peace.